Hey everybody, Randall Cornett here. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. I know it's been a long time, but something interesting that I just stumbled across. I was doing some research in BlackRock today and found out that a portion of their website, they actually have events that they're kind of betting that could potentially happen, right? That could cause some market disruption. And I thought some of these were pretty interesting, especially because they deem the likelihood of these happening pretty high, right? If you look here on my screen, you can see the likelihood high. So I wanted to go over a few of those, and I'll give the link for this so you guys can look at it yourselves. But I did find it interesting nonetheless. So they do believe there's going to be global technology decoupling, which I guess the best way to put it is like between using the United States and China as an example. Just the routes that we're going with technology and maybe and on the infrastructure side of things, maybe supply chain, how they're tracking vaccines, everything. Basically, we're going in two different directions, and we think that they're betting there's going to be some friction there between the two countries, and they think the likelihood of that is happening is to be pretty high. And what's interesting, if you actually look at the market attention this has got, it's actually went down over time, right? Like people are actually not paying as much attention to that. And that brings me to the second one, right? So we have the second one they think is a high likelihood of happening is a COVID-19 resurgence, which is, they say the fight against COVID falters in the developed world. And the market attention obviously kind of stooped down low here for a period of time, but then it's spiking right back up. And it says the higher transmissibility of the Delta variant has driven an increase in cases in the U.S., parts of Europe, and Asia. Healthcare systems are more likely to be under strain in high vaccine hesitancy regions. China, too, has seen smaller outbreaks, showing the limits of a strict zero COVID strategy. We could see a fresh lockdown measures in countries with low natural immunity or low vaccine penetration, putting supply chains and the economic restart at risk. A slow global vaccine rollout, exacerbated by ongoing vaccine hesitancy, could also increase the chances of an emergence of vaccine-resistant variants in those regions with high level of transmissions. The U.S. is pursuing an aggressive set of new measures, including vaccine mandates. We already know all that without getting into politics. Like, that's another slippery slope in itself, but they do believe the likelihood of this happening is high. Now moving on to the next one, major cyber attacks. So cyber attacks that cause sustained disruption in the operation of critical physical or digital infrastructure. And it's become clear that critical government and private sector networks around the globe are vulnerable to hacking and spying through financial market reactions have been muted, or though financial market reactions have been muted. Attacks on critical infrastructure are increasing in scope, scale, and sophistication. The U.S. is facing an epidemic of ransomware in particular. Repeated attacks present the possibility of a significant damage and sustained disruption. This could spill over to both financial markets and the real economy. So, the conspiracy theorist in me says, hey, they could use this as a blanket term for any sort of technology issue where systems go down, which makes it a little bit scary. And they're banking that this is going to happen. Again, the likelihood of this happening, according to BlackRock, that is high. And those are really the high probability ones, but some of the more medium ones as well. Is U.S.-China strategic competition. China takes military action to accelerate reunification with Taiwan, or more forcefully assert claims in the South China Sea. So they think that there's a potential that China goes after Taiwan, or starts, adventuring off to claim some sort of dominance in the southern Chinese Sea. They also think that failure to arrest the COVID-19 pandemic severely stresses EM political systems and institutions. So they're saying this has a medium risk as well, but COVID-19 has driven significant divergence between developed economies and emerging markets. This divergence will be amplified by the uneven rollout of vaccines and the stressed fiscal conditions. Demonstrations in Latin America could portend unrest across fragile emerging market countries facing the same explosive convergence of the ongoing pandemic, increasing poverty, and weak government performance. And they're saying this has got like a medium risk. major terror attacks, they're kind of, and these guys work. I mean, this is, think about it like life insurance. You know what I mean? They're constantly assessing risk. So these things that are they're thinking about, I would imagine they do put a lot of weight in the thought process in like determining the risks on these certain events, right? And for major terror attacks, it says the Taliban takeover and the accompanying release of the prisoners in Afghanistan may increase a risk of international terrorism, even as the U.S. counterterrorism capabilities have improved. The insurrection of the U.S. Capitol underscores the significant and growing risk of domestic terrorism, which the Biden administration has called the most serious and persistent terror threat to the U.S. And, to be honest with you, I have my own thoughts on that, but they're saying that that's a little bit more on the medium risk side of things. They talk about North Korea, climate policy gridlock, European fragmentation, and Gulf tensions. But all of the majority of the last two, so European fragmentation and Gulf tensions, they think the likelihood of that is low. So very interesting. And these are things that, major funds are looking at. So I'm going to obviously start digging into things around those, making the connections to AMC if there is any, and I'm sure there are. And that being said, I just thought it was pretty interesting, and I'll provide this link for you guys in the description so you could check it out. And then you can also come, and if you look here at the calendar, which it's on the same link here at the top, you can see key geopolitical events over the next year. So they're saying that these are key events that could perhaps cause some turbulence in the markets. And there's a nice calendar for things that we should be looking out for. The European Central Bank meeting is something I'm going to be looking for personally. Federal Reserve meetings, obviously. China Central Economic and Financial Work Conference. This will be something very interesting. Another Federal Reserve meeting and another European Central Bank. So, and then obviously you have Hong Kong legislative actions and votes. You've got a general election in Japan. All of these things kind of connect when you look at the market on a global scale. So anyways, I will be seeing you guys soon. I've got some more data. I've got some free time, so I'm going to pump out some videos this week. Hope you guys enjoyed your weekend and enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Peace.